Italian. And we're gonna be interviewing people that are inspiring to us and finding out more about what kind of makes them tick. And we're gonna do it in their favorite place in our community. So we're celebrating small businesses and big ideas at the same time.
We're here today with the fantastic Mrs. Christine Halliday at Cabalar Meat.
Which is one of my favorite places in Lancaster. It's a whole animal butcher, amazing food, great beer. They just teamed up with Voodoo Brewery. Wait till you see what they're doing. It's like awesome. Honestly, everything speaks for itself. You have to come in. If for some crazy reason you live here, you haven't been here, you're missing out. Like, get here. That's the thing.
That's it. Yeah. All right, come inside with us.
All right, let's go.
Let's roll.
So wild and precious now.
That, I'll give you that. So wild and precious now. All right.
All right, so
okay.
We're sitting down today with one of the most inspirational people I know, Mrs. Christine Halliday. Fantastic co-producer of Wild and Precious Now. In what ways are you wild?
I think it's funny. We have this joke among anybody that's kind of worked with us with the show about like, oh, that's a little too wild and not enough precious for when things get out of hand, or I say something off color, which I guess I'm known to do occasionally, very rarely. But I think my interpretation of wild and like how I'm wild or what it means to be wild or like what makes our life wild is more in line with one of my favorite poets who kind of like prompted the whole idea of the show, Mary Oliver, who was super connected with like the outside world. Even though it's true that I can be wild in like a weird and like crazy and like off the beaten path kind of way, I think, or I hope, that the ways I'm wild that matter is more like the way that wild things are wild. Like wild things don't compare themselves to other wild things. They're just trying to be the best at what they are. A wildflower isn't concerned with like all of the other wildflowers. It's just growing. It's concerned with growing. And growing no matter if the environment is perfectly conducive to growing or not. So I hope that I'm wild in the ways that I'm becoming and that I'm growing and kind of trying to spread the good things about me and kind of keep the other things under control. Wild and free. And
wild and free.
Yeah.
Like a wildflower.
Yeah, like that.
So what is something that's precious to you right now?
I feel like the two things that are the most precious to me right now are time and story. I feel like time is probably my most precious commodity. As I get older, I feel like it's become more of a luxury, and I'm always looking for ways to have more time to do the things that really matter. And I've become way more protective of my time and how I spend it. So in that way, I would say time. And then story, because I really believe that story is what connects us to each other. I think that writing our own story is one of the most powerful things that we can do with our time. And I think being a part of other people's stories is something that we sometimes take for granted. We interact with people and we become a part of the fabric of their life, like their day. I think we could be more intentional about how we choose to have those interactions, the way that we see each other. And I know that personally I've been changed by so many people who have shared their stories with me, but also by the ability to be a part of someone's story and then have them come back and say, you know, my story was a little different because of the impact that you had. I think that story is one of the most powerful things that we have to share with each other because it helps us to grow and to change and to learn, but also to see how similar we are and find ourselves in each other. I think it's really important. Yeah.
It's really amazing. I love the way you capture and tell stories and how like you live and breathe story every day to day. Inspiration.
Thank you. I would say the same for you, friend. Cheers to story.
Cheers to story.
I'm glad you're part of mine.
Same. Wow. Yeah.
Also glad you're part of yours. It'd be super weird to like read the Joel story and have you not.
So what does the phrase joy your belly mean to you?
Okay, so I'm actually really excited about this idea. I love it. One of my favorite creators, Brad Montague, made a video a while back, and I saw it several times. It's all about joy as resistance. Like, go and create and make and be joyful, because that's like part of your resistance to the things that maybe you think are wrong with the world. One of the times that I saw it, it really grabbed a hold of me in a different way, and I think that it was this idea of joy as a resistance and like as an action. I think sometimes in the world that we're living in, there are so many causes, there are so many things, and there are times where it feels like we're going backwards where we want to be going forward, or times where we feel like we should be so much past this, there shouldn't be this stuff going on, like we can do better. And there are so many ways to get involved that even that can be overwhelming at times, and it's really easy to feel like I'm not doing enough, or like I'm not enough of an activist, or I'm not enough of a like world changer, innovator, like I should be doing more to make the world a better place. And I believe that, and I believe in action, and I believe in rolling up my sleeves for a cause, and I'm known to do that when the opportunity arises. But I'm not able to do that full time, like with all of my time. And I think I was finding myself at this particular juncture, like feeling a little paralyzed by that, like by my inaction, or feeling like I didn't know like what to do, or like why, like what can I do that would be more impactful? What can I do that would be bigger or more or mean more? So when I saw Brad's video, I really grabbed onto this idea of being a joy rebel. I bought a t-shirt and everything because I feel like it was such an empowering message to remember that part of resisting what's wrong in the world is celebrating like what's right in the world and appreciating it. So like hiding under my covers when I'm not out like fighting the good fight is a waste of time. What I should be doing is creating more joy, and that in itself is a resistance to hatred and oppression and all of the other things that are like wrong with this world. And so I definitely consider myself a joy rebel, and I find it super empowering to recognize that when I'm being my best self, I'm adding to making the world a better place. And when I'm spreading joy to the people around me, then I'm adding to making the world a better place. I think that it sounds really simple to some people, or even trite, like to say like, oh, you know, we're just spreading joy and that's gonna fix things. But I would offer this. Like, I feel like all of the things that I find really wrong with the world are like hatred and fear driven. If everyone was living their best life, if like what that means to them, it's different for everyone. And if everyone was like celebrating the best of like what's in front of them and really loving people and really loving themselves, I feel like that would be like something that caught on, and there wouldn't be room for some of the things that are really wrong with the world, and we'd be so much more open to seeing each other and listening to each other instead of trying to get ahead of each other all the time. I think it's important to know that like being joyful and like being kind and spreading joy to other people and elevating messages that matter and being hopeful and grateful is still part of that hard work, making the world a better place.
I think it sounds inspiring and amazing. I love that line about like living your best life joyfully is the best way to resist against the fear and the hate and the oppression. That's so powerful.
Was it like Mother Teresa said, if you love people, you have no time to hate them? Like, it's true. Like, anybody that has the time to be hateful and mean-spirited or judging other people or putting people down or oppressing people, like, they're not filled with joy. It's not possible to do those two things together.
What makes you feel like you're making the most of your one wild and precious life?
So when I'm connecting with the people in my life, when I'm learning something new and growing from it, when I am taking the time to be really grateful for no particular reason and every like little thing, then I feel like I'm making the most of my one wild and precious life. Yeah, cheers to that. That's quite good. Okay.
So what actions can we take to support our one wild and precious life?
So Mary Oliver, the poet, said, instructions for living a life pay attention, be astonished, tell about it. And I think that's a really good place to start. Just like walking through the world wonderstruck, paying attention to what's going on and also the people around you, the stories around you. I would add to walk in love and not fear, which is really hard to do and something that I think most of us have to make a conscious choice to do every step of the way. And also just to live a grateful life. I think that that's a really big part of it as well. And I think the more that you know yourself and you understand like what makes your soul light up, like what's feeding you and like what feeds the people around you, then you keep following that path. You keep stepping towards those things. For me, it's story, an elevating story, and education, and like people. And it starts with my own people at home, and then the people in my life that extend from there. So, yeah, I think the first action that we can take is just to know ourselves and the people around us well, and to be grateful and keep moving forward. Yeah. Cheers.
Down at Cabalar Meat. This place is awesome.
It is awesome.
Your sandwiches are really amazing. What do you love about this place?
So I got to interview Steve Cabalar for Fig a long time ago, and when they were first opening, I love the whole butcher approach they take here. Their food is amazing. Like you taste something and you know it's different, it's fresh. I just love the vibe of the place. Now they've combined with Voodoo Brewery, so like there's beer here. You just come in and honestly, the food speaks for itself. The people are great. It's just one of those places you like keep coming back to again and again.
Being a level butcher, you have a lot of different things that you have to deal with, like bones, fat, trim, things like that, where, you know, a normal restaurant or something like that would just get, you know, the primal, the cut that's just ready to go. So we make, you know, in our fryer, we have like big beef tallow fries. We render the beef fat down, use it in our fryers, we have use for that. The bones, we make stock. Having a burger on the menu is key as well to keep that meat moving.
How special were the barbecue bacon are his favorites. So what do you think?
We're very proud of our burgers. Yeah, we have a nice couple of different varieties.
Today we're going burgers. Am I right?
Whether making poutine gravy or soups, different things like that. Just coming up with creative uses.
Dude, do you want to try poutine? Have you ever had poutine?
So I can recall.
Then you should have it. It's like a Canadian delicacy. My family used to go skiing in Canada, and poutine, like we live for poutine. You can get it everywhere. We're doing that. All right, poutine and what else?
The best part of Voodoo Beer is the people who created, people who work for the company and put their heart and soul into everything that we do. From the hard work ethic to the do-it-yourself mentality and a little bit of that voodoo magic.
Have a burger and a beer and a good time, so.
Yeah, and it's always a good time and like a great meal. That's the problem is it's always so good, so good. Like I feel like I eat here and I'm like, no, it's a good combo. It's just always so good.
Yeah, you gotta play.
Too ready to eat. And yeah. I hope you're making the most of your 1 mile in Bridges now. Alright, cool. It's a wrap.